Hi. Stephen King. Little author, maybe you've heard of him. Don't do that. Stephen King is one of the biggest, most famous authors ever. Let me check. Yep. Very, very famous. He's the king of horror. He doesn't practice prose that's arduous for the moderate bibliophile to discern, like that crap. He writes without pretense, which is why I think he's one of the most widely read authors ever. I went through a King phase in my teens and early 20s. I'm sure I have another one coming because I have been itching to pick him up again. Especially because I haven't read some of the big boys. Carrie, The Shining, Cujo, heavy hitters. I started Pet Sematary a couple of years ago, but I had to DNF it because the little boy in that story, physically and age-wise, was way too similar to my son. And if you've read that book, you can understand why I had to, which was too bad because I was listening to it on audio and Michael C. Hall, or Dexter, reads it, and it sounded so good. So right now it is spooky season, and there are lots and lots of Stephen King videos coming up that I'm seeing. And they're all a lot of his horror stuff, which makes sense. He's a horror author. But I wanted to talk about some of my favorite titles and his maybe lesser known stuff, maybe not. I don't know how into King you are. But these are some of my favorites. So, here we go. My favorite King is The Long Walk. He wrote this one under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. It's a dystopian psychological horror, and it's so good. It's the best book about people just walking the whole time that I've ever read, hands down. So it's about a walking contest where 100 teenagers compete to walk. And walk and walk and walk and walk and just keep walking. The winner at the end gets the prize, whatever they want for the rest of their life. So it's pretty good. Who wouldn't walk for that? There are certain guidelines that they have to follow. They have to maintain a certain speed, no stopping, stuff like that. Otherwise, warnings and tickets are issued. This contest is a great big deal, and lots of people go for it. I don't want to say much more because I don't want to spoil anything, but it is a physical and psychological contest, and that becomes clearer and clearer the longer that they're walking. You can find it on its own, or it is also in the Bachman books. There's a collection of 4 of his early novels, so I really like that one. Okay, and now here's a cheat if I ever saw one. The entire Dark Tower series. This is King's magnum opus, 8 books, 1 prequel, and there's a children's book called Charlie the Choo. Terrifying. It's been turned into a graphic novel series. It's a big deal, is what I'm trying to tell you. This series is a genre mashup. It's fantasy and dark fantasy and horror and sci-fi and a western. This story follows Roland Deschain, the last gunslinger, as he travels through worlds and tries to get to the nexus, the center of it all, which is the Dark Tower. But through his travels, he is trying to catch his nemesis, the Man in Black. It's a huge series. A lot happens. Trying to sum it up would be spoilery fast. He meets his quartet, which is basically his party. They are his friends and allies bound by fate. King does an amazing job combining these fantasy worlds with our own world, and he creates landscapes and creatures that just have lived on past when I closed these books. Specifically, of course, I'm thinking of Oi, the Billy Bumbler, and the Lobstrosities. Actually, I have a clip of the Lobstrosities. Roll it. Is that a jump? Don't check. There is division among fans about the ending of this series. There seem to be 2 camps, the I love it and the I hate it. I love it. I thought that the ending was so good. But I know people who said, oh my god, I read all that for that. So comment down below if you've read them without being spoilery. Let's not do that here. But Let me know if you loved it or you hated it. So yeah, if you have not heard of or picked up the Dark Tower series, I loved it. Okay, King is also known for putting together short story collections. I'm not generally much of a short story reader. I prefer his collections where it's like 4 novellas as opposed to like 20 short stories. My favorite of his collections is 4 Past Midnight. This one, I looked it up. I read this. I had to have been younger than 15 because I was not quite 15. I was like 14 and a half when the movie Secret Window came out. And I had already read the story before I saw the movie. So, yeah, I was pretty young. This is my favorite, and it's got nostalgia all over it. So I'm not saying it's the best one. I'm saying it's my favorite one. It's got 4 novellas in there. The Langoliers, which is a spooky, time-splitty airplane story. It's about 10 people on an airplane, and they go through a time rip, and then weird stuff happens. The best one in this collection is Secret Window, Secret Garden. It follows an author who is away in a cabin, and this guy comes and he's all angry, saying that the author plagiarized his work. So things get progressively weirder with this guy, and it gets darker and stranger. Even if you've seen the movie, I recommend picking up the story because they changed the ending in the movie and the book was better. The ending in this story is so much better than they did in the movie, I think. The Library Policeman is the next one, and I barely remember this one. This one is a scary library, and the boogeyman is the Library Policeman, and it's really just a hunting and getting the boogeyman tale. And the last one, I don't remember it well, but I do remember parts of it vividly. It's called The Sundog, and this kid gets a Polaroid camera, and every time he takes a picture with it, the scary dog is in the picture that isn't there. And then every time he takes it, it gets closer, and it freaks me out just thinking back on it. And then the last book that I want to recommend by Stephen King is called On Writing. This is a nonfiction book that Stephen King wrote on writing. Go figure. There are great tips and truths and stories in there. If you enjoy audio, he reads the audiobook himself, which I really, really liked. If you are an aspiring writer, it's a must read because this guy obviously knows his shit. Okay guys, that's it. Those are some of my favorite Kings. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you thought, or if you're gonna pick any up. Like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, and share with all of your friends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you next time. Bye! He doesn't practice prose that's arduous for the moderate Wow, why did I try and do this? I knew I bought this thing for a reason. Look at this tail. Comedy gold!